The clock on the wall showed 9:47 p.m. when Robert finally shut down his computer. Another late night at the office. Another day of meetings, phone calls, and signing papers that meant nothing to him anymore. He loosened his tie and grabbed his briefcase, feeling the weight of exhaustion in his bones. At 52 years old, Robert had everything people dream about: a penthouse apartment overlooking the city, 3 luxury cars, a watch that cost more than most people's annual salary. His real estate company had made him millions. But lately everything felt empty. His wife had left him 6 months ago. His 2 grown kids barely returned his calls. Success, he was learning, didn't keep you warm at night. The November wind hit him hard as he stepped outside. He pulled his coat tighter and walked toward the parking garage 2 blocks away. The streets were mostly empty now. Just a few people hurrying home, their breath visible in the cold air. Robert's mind wandered to the bottle of expensive whiskey waiting for him at home. Another night alone. Another night wondering when his life had become so hollow. The parking garage was dark and quiet. His footsteps echoed off the concrete walls as he made his way to level 3 where he'd left his car that morning. He was thinking about the quarterly reports he needed to review tomorrow when he heard it. A soft sound, almost like a whimper. He stopped walking and listened. There it was again. Someone was crying. Robert's first instinct was to keep walking. This was the city. People had problems. It wasn't his business. But something made him pause. The crying sounded young, scared. He followed the sound to a corner near the stairwell. And there she was. A little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, sitting on the cold concrete floor. She was wearing a thin jacket that offered no protection against the freezing temperature. Her small body was shaking and tears were streaming down her dark cheeks. In her arms, she clutched a faded backpack like it was the most precious thing in the world. Robert stood there for a moment, unsure what to do. He wasn't good with kids, never had been. Even his own children had been raised mostly by nannies and his ex-wife. But he couldn't just walk away. "Hey," he said softly, keeping his distance so he wouldn't scare her. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. She hugged the backpack tighter and didn't answer. "I'm not going to hurt you," Robert said, crouching down to her level but staying several feet away. "My name is Robert. What's yours?" The girl wiped her nose with her sleeve. "Destiny," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name," Robert said. "Destiny, are you lost? Where are your parents?" Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "My mama." "She went to get help. She said to wait right here. She said she'd come back, but..." Her voice broke. "That was a really long time ago." "I'm scared." Robert felt his chest tighten. "How long ago did she leave?" "I don't know." It was still light outside. Now it's dark. Hours. This child had been sitting here alone for hours. Robert looked around the empty garage. Anything could have happened to her. What kind of mother leaves a child alone like this? But even as the thought crossed his mind, he saw something in the girl's eyes that made him reconsider. This wasn't neglect. This was desperation. "Are you cold?" he asked. Destiny nodded, her teeth chattering. Robert took off his expensive coat and gently draped it over her small shoulders. It swallowed her whole, but at least it was warm. "Have you eaten anything today?" She shook her head. "Okay, listen. There's a diner just across the street. How about we go get you some food and then we'll figure out how to find your mom? Does that sound good?" Destiny hesitated, looking down at her backpack. "Mama said to wait right here. I know, but you're freezing and hungry. We won't go far. And maybe your mom went looking for you somewhere else. Sometimes these things get confusing." Robert tried to sound reassuring, though he had no idea what he was doing. "I promise we'll help find her. But first, let's get some food in your belly, okay?" After a long moment, Destiny slowly nodded and stood up. She was so small, so fragile. Robert felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. When was the last time he'd felt protective of anyone? They walked out of the garage together, Destiny still clutching that backpack like her life depended on it. Robert noticed she was limping slightly, and her shoes had holes in them. His heart sank further. The diner was one of those 24-hour places that served breakfast all day. Bright lights, vinyl booths, and the smell of coffee and bacon grease. The waitress, an older woman with kind eyes, smiled at them as they sat down. "What can I get you folks?" she asked. "Whatever she wants," Robert said, gesturing to Destiny. The girl's eyes went wide as she looked at the menu. "I can have anything?" "Anything you want. Can I have pancakes? And eggs and orange juice?" "Of course." And add some bacon too, Robert said to the waitress. While they waited for the food, Robert tried calling the police non-emergency line. He explained the situation to the dispatcher, who took down the information and said they'd send an officer to take a report. Robert gave them the diner's address. When the food arrived, Destiny ate like she hadn't seen a meal in days. She stuffed pancakes into her mouth so fast Robert worried she might choke. "Slow down, sweetie. The food's not going anywhere," he said gently. Between bites, she told him bits and pieces of her story. She and her mama lived in a shelter. Her mama worked 3 different jobs, but it still wasn't enough. Today they had to leave the shelter because they couldn't pay the fee. Her mama had cried, which scared Destiny because her mama never cried. "She told me she was going to ask Uncle Terry for help," Destiny said, syrup dripping down her chin. But she never came back. Robert's mind was racing. A single mother, multiple jobs, homeless. He'd walked past situations like this 1,000 times in his life and never given them a second thought. Now, sitting across from this little girl, he felt ashamed of his indifference. "Destiny," he said carefully. "What's in the backpack? You're holding it pretty tight." The girl's eyes filled with tears again. She looked down at the worn bag in her lap. Her small fingers traced the faded cartoon character on the front. "My stuff," she whispered. "My important stuff." Mama said to never let anyone take it. She said if anything happened, to keep it safe. Something about the way she said it sent a chill down Robert's spine. If anything happened? What did she mean by that? Destiny looked up at him with those huge, heartbreaking eyes. "I don't know. But she made me promise. She said it was really, really important." Robert wanted to press further, but just then a police officer walked into the diner. Reality was setting in. This wasn't just about a lost child. Something bigger was happening here. Something that would change everything, but Robert didn't know that yet. All he knew was that for the first time in years he felt something other than emptiness. He felt needed, and that scared him almost as much as it comforted him. The police officer's name was Jenkins. He was a big guy with a tired face who looked like he'd seen everything. He sat down at their booth, pulled out a notepad, and started asking Destiny questions. Her name, her age, her mother's name. When was the last time she saw her? Destiny answered in a small voice, still holding tight to her backpack. Her mother's name was Claire. She was 8 years old. Her birthday was in March. They'd been at the shelter on 5th Street until this morning. Officer Jenkins wrote everything down, his pen scratching across the paper. Robert watched the whole thing feeling useless. He'd built a business empire, negotiated million-dollar deals, but right now he had no idea how to help this scared little girl. "We'll put out a missing person report," Jenkins said, closing his notepad. "Check the hospitals, other shelters. Sometimes in situations like this, the parent gets held up somewhere and can't get back. Maybe she's looking for the girl right now." "And what happens to Destiny in the meantime?" Robert asked. "We'll need to contact Child Protective Services. She'll be placed in emergency foster care until we locate her mother." Destiny's head snapped up.
"No, I have to stay here."
"What if Mama comes back and I'm gone? She won't know where to find me." "Sweetie, they'll leave information for your mom," Jenkins said gently. "If she comes back, she'll know exactly where you are." "No, no, no." Destiny was crying again, clutching her backpack so hard her knuckles turned white. "I can't leave. I promised. I promised I'd wait." Robert felt something crack inside his chest. He put his hand on the table near Destiny, not quite touching her. "Hey, it's okay. We'll figure this out." Jenkins gave him a look. "Sir, are you family?" "No, I found her in the parking garage." "Then I'm afraid you won't be involved beyond giving your statement. This is a matter for child services now." Everything was happening too fast. Robert could see the panic in Destiny's eyes. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. And suddenly he understood. This girl had already lost everything today. Now strangers were going to take her away from the one place her mother told her to wait. "Can I have a minute with her?" Robert asked. "Just 1 minute before whoever comes to get her?" Jenkins looked at his watch and sighed. 5 minutes. I need to make some calls anyway." He stood up and walked outside, his radio crackling. Robert turned to Destiny. She was sobbing now, her small body shaking. Without thinking, he reached across the table and gently took her hand. It was so small in his. "Destiny, listen to me. I know you're scared. I know this isn't what your mama told you to do. But these people, they're going to help find her. They have resources, computers, ways to search that we don't have. But what if she comes back? Destiny hiccuped through her tears. Then they'll reunite you right away. I promise. And I'll give them my number. I'll make sure they keep looking for her. I won't just forget about you. Destiny looked at him with those big, wet eyes. You promise? I promise. She wiped her nose with her sleeve again. Then slowly she pulled the backpack onto the table. Her hands trembled as she unzipped it. I want to show you, she whispered. I want to show you why I can't lose this. Robert's heart was pounding as she reached inside. What came out first was a stuffed rabbit, so worn and loved that most of its fur was rubbed off. Then a framed photo of Destiny and a woman who must be Claire, both smiling at the camera. They were standing in front of a Christmas tree. That was 2 years ago, Destiny said softly, before things got really bad. Next came some papers. Robert could see they were school assignments, math worksheets, and spelling tests. All of them had stars and smiley faces and comments like excellent work. And so proud of you. Mama kept all my best papers, Destiny said. She said she was making a collection for when I go to college someday. Robert's throat felt tight. He'd never kept any of his own kids' schoolwork. Never thought it mattered. Then Destiny pulled out a stack of papers that made Robert's blood run cold. Medical bills. Pages and pages of them. He could see the amounts even from where he sat. Thousands, tens of thousands. Words jumped out at him. Oncology, radiation, chemotherapy. Mama's sick, Destiny said quietly. Really sick. She doesn't like to talk about it, but I know. I hear her crying at night when she thinks I'm asleep. Robert couldn't speak. He just stared at those bills, understanding dawning on him like a terrible sunrise. There's more, Destiny whispered. She reached into the bottom of the bag and pulled out a notebook. It was a simple composition book, the kind kids use in school. But when she opened it, Robert could see it was a diary. Claire's diary. I'm not supposed to read it, Destiny said, but I did, just once. I was scared and I wanted to know what was happening. She flipped through pages filled with handwriting. Robert could see dates, entries about trying to find work, about being denied for assistance programs, about the cancer spreading. And then Destiny stopped on a page near the end. This one, she said, pointing. This one's about me. Robert leaned closer and read. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Claire wrote about how she was running out of time. How the cancer was stage 4 and the treatments weren't working anymore. How she'd tried everything to find someone to take care of Destiny. Her parents were dead. Her sister wanted nothing to do with them. Uncle Terry, the one Destiny mentioned, had moved away and changed his number. Claire wrote about her fear of dying and leaving her daughter alone in the world. About how Destiny was smart and kind and deserved so much better than this life. About how she wished she could have given her more. And then Robert saw it. Tucked between the pages of the diary, an envelope with words written on the front in shaky handwriting. To whoever finds my daughter. His hands were shaking as he picked it up. Did you read this? Destiny shook her head. It was sealed. But I think Mama knew she might not come back today. Robert's mind was reeling. A sick woman, desperate, out of options. Did she collapse somewhere? Was she in a hospital right now, unconscious with no ID? Or worse? Can I read it? He asked softly. Destiny nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. Robert carefully opened the envelope and pulled out the letter inside. The handwriting was messier than the diary, like it had been written in a hurry or with a shaking hand. He started reading, and with each word his heart broke a little more. The letter explained everything. Claire knew she was dying. She'd hidden it from Destiny as much as possible, but time was running out. She'd tried every agency, every program, every possible option to secure her daughter's future. Nothing had worked. She had no family willing to help, no friends with the means to take in a child. The letter talked about Destiny's love of reading and math, about how she dreamed of being a teacher someday, about her kindness to other kids at school, even when they made fun of her worn clothes, about how she was the best thing Claire had ever done with her life. And then came the part that destroyed Robert completely. I don't know who will find this letter, Claire had written. Maybe a social worker, maybe a police officer, maybe a stranger. Whoever you are, I'm begging you, please help my baby girl. She deserves a life full of love and opportunity. She deserves to go to college and chase her dreams. She deserves a family who will cherish her the way I do. I know I have no right to ask this of anyone, but I'm asking anyway. Please don't let her end up lost in the system. Please help her believe that good people still exist in this world. Please tell her every day that her mama loved her more than anything. The letter ended with, "Thank you for caring enough to read this. Thank you for being there when I couldn't be. Bless you." Robert set the letter down with shaking hands. He couldn't look at Destiny. Couldn't let her see the tears in his eyes. A grown man, a millionaire who prided himself on being tough in business, and he was falling apart in a diner booth. "Mr. Robert?" Destiny's small voice broke through his thoughts. "Is Mama coming back?" He looked at her then. Really looked at her. This brave little girl who'd been carrying this weight, sitting alone in a cold garage believing her mother would return. And Robert realized something. He didn't know if Claire was coming back. But he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't walk away from this. He couldn't let this child disappear into the system like just another case number. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'm going to help find out. And until we do, I'm going to make sure you're safe." That's a promise. Outside the diner window, he could see Officer Jenkins finishing his call. A few minutes later, a woman from Child Services would arrive. They would take Destiny away to some temporary home. Everything would follow procedure and protocol. But something had changed in Robert. For the first time in years, maybe in his whole life, he understood what really mattered. And he wasn't going to let this little girl face the world alone. The woman from Child Services arrived 20 minutes later. Her name was Patricia, and she had the look of someone who'd been doing this job too long. Kind eyes but tired. She carried a clipboard and wore a jacket that had seen better days. Robert watched as she knelt down to talk to Destiny, her voice gentle and professional. But Destiny just stared at the table holding her backpack, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. When Patricia tried to take her hand, the little girl pulled away. "I understand you're scared," Patricia said, "but I promise we're going to take good care of you. We're going to find your mom, okay?" Destiny didn't respond. She looked at Robert with pleading eyes, like he was the only person in the world she could trust. It gutted him. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Robert asked Patricia, standing up. They stepped away from the booth near the door. Officer Jenkins joined them. "I want to help find her mother," Robert said. "I have resources. I can hire people, make calls, do whatever it takes." Patricia gave him a sympathetic look. "That's very kind, Mr. Thompson." "Robert Thompson." "Mr. Thompson, I appreciate your concern, but this is now a case for the authorities. We have procedures for this sort of thing. Your procedures could take days, weeks even. This woman could be lying in a hospital somewhere with no identification. She could be—" He stopped, not wanting to say the word. "We need to act fast." Officer Jenkins crossed his arms. "Sir, I understand you want to help, but you're a stranger to this family. You found the kid, you did the right thing by calling us. Now let us do our job." Robert felt frustration building in his chest. "And what about Destiny? Where are you taking her?" "Emergency foster placement," Patricia said. "We have a family that takes children on short notice. They're good people. She'll be safe. Will I be able to check on her?" Patricia shook her head. "You're not family. That's not how this works." Something snapped inside Robert. "Then I want to become family. I want to be her foster parent." Both Patricia and Jenkins stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "Mr. Thompson," Patricia said slowly, "do you understand what you're saying? Foster care isn't something you just decide on a whim. It's not a whim. That little girl has been through hell today. She doesn't need to be shipped off to strangers. I can provide for her. I have a home, resources, everything she needs, and it doesn't work that way," Patricia said. "There's a process. Background checks, home studies, training courses. It takes months. Then start the process tonight, tomorrow, whenever. Just don't take her away to some random house where she doesn't know anyone." Jenkins stepped forward. "Look, I get that you're trying to help, but you've known this kid for what, 2 hours? You can't just adopt her because you feel bad. I'm not trying to adopt her right this second. I'm saying I want to be involved. I want to help." Patricia pulled out a business card and handed it to him. "If you're serious about this, call my office on Monday. We'll discuss what's involved in becoming a foster parent. But right now, tonight, Destiny needs to come with me." Robert looked back at the booth. Destiny had buried her face in her arms on the table, her whole body shaking with sobs. His heart was breaking. "Can I at least say goodbye?" Patricia nodded. 5 minutes. Robert walked back to the booth and slid in across from Destiny. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. "They're making me go," she whispered. "I know. But listen to me. This isn't forever. They're going to look for your mom. And I'm going to look for her too. I'm going to hire the best people I know to find her. What if they can't?" Robert took a deep breath. "Then I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. I'm going to become your foster parent." "Do you know what that means?" Destiny shook her head. "It means I'll be responsible for you. I'll make sure you have a home, food, everything you need. I know you don't really know me, but I promise I'm going to do everything I can to help you." "Why?" Destiny asked, her voice barely audible. "Why do you care?" It was a good question. Why did he care? He'd spent 52 years caring mostly about himself. About money, success, status. He'd ignored homeless people on the street, donated to charities only for tax write-offs, spent more on a single dinner than most people made in a week. So why did this one little girl matter so much? "Because," he said slowly, "I think your mom sent me to find you. I think I was supposed to walk through that parking garage at exactly that moment, and I'm not going to waste that chance." Destiny reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "Promise you'll look for my mama?" "I promise. And promise you won't forget about me?" "I could never forget about you, Destiny." Patricia appeared beside the booth. "It's time." The next few minutes were the hardest of Robert's life. Watching Destiny gather her precious backpack, seeing her walk away with Patricia toward the door, hearing her quiet sobs. She turned back once to look at him and he raised his hand in a small wave. Then she was gone. Robert sat in that booth for a long time after they left. The waitress refilled his coffee twice without saying a word. Finally, he pulled out his phone and started making calls. First, he called his assistant. He didn't care that it was almost midnight. "Linda, I need you to do something for me first thing tomorrow morning. Find me the best private investigator in the city, someone who specializes in missing persons. Money is no object." Linda, bless her, didn't ask questions. "I'll have 3 options for you by 9 a.m. Next, he called his lawyer. That conversation took longer. His lawyer tried to talk him out of the foster care idea, called it impulsive and complicated. But Robert was firm. He wanted the process started immediately. The next 72 hours were a blur. The private investigator, a no-nonsense woman named Kate, took the case and went to work. She checked every hospital in a 50-mile radius. She tracked down Uncle Terry, who turned out to be useless and hadn't heard from Claire in over a year. She interviewed people at the shelter where Claire and Destiny had stayed. Robert went to the police station every day for updates. He called Patricia's office so many times they started recognizing his voice. He couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on work. His entire world had narrowed down to finding one woman and protecting one little girl. On day 3, Kate called him. Her voice was somber. "I found her," she said. "You need to sit down." Robert was in his office. He gripped the edge of his desk. "Is she alive?" "She's at County General. She collapsed on a bus 2 days ago. Had a seizure. By the time the EMTs got to her, she was unconscious. She's been in the ICU. Why didn't anyone contact Destiny? She had no ID on her, no phone. Nothing but a few dollars in her pocket. They've been trying to identify her through fingerprints and missing person reports." Robert was already grabbing his coat. "What room?" "Room 317. But Robert, you need to prepare yourself. It's not good. The doctors say her cancer has progressed significantly. She's been in and out of consciousness." 20 minutes later, Robert stood outside room 317, his heart pounding. Through the small window in the door, he could see a woman lying in the bed, tubes and wires connected to her. She looked so small, so fragile. This was Claire, Destiny's mother, the woman who had written that heartbreaking letter. He pushed open the door and walked in quietly. The machines beeped steadily. Claire's eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. A nurse was checking her vitals. "Are you family?" the nurse asked. Robert hesitated. "I'm a friend. I've been looking for her. Her daughter has been waiting for her." The nurse's expression softened. "She has a daughter?" "We didn't know. She hasn't been able to tell us anything. Her name is Destiny. She's 8 years old. She's in foster care right now, waiting for her mom." The nurse looked at Claire with new sadness in her eyes. "The doctors say she doesn't have much time left. A few days maybe. A week at most." Robert felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. He'd been so focused on finding Claire, on reuniting her with Destiny. He hadn't prepared himself for this. "Can I sit with her?" he asked. "Of course." Robert pulled a chair next to the bed and sat down. He looked at this woman who had fought so hard for her daughter, who had worked 3 jobs, who had held on as long as she could, and he made a silent promise to her. "I found Destiny," he said quietly, not sure if she could hear him. "She's safe, and I'm going to take care of her. I know I'm a stranger. I know I have no right to make this promise, but I'm going to give her the life you wanted for her. I'm going to make sure she knows how much you loved her." "I swear it." Claire's eyes fluttered but didn't open. Her hand twitched slightly on the blanket. Robert gently took it in this stranger's hand, and held it. The next morning, Patricia brought Destiny to the hospital. Robert had fought hard for this, argued that the girl deserved to see her mother, that she needed this closure. Patricia had finally agreed, though she looked worried. Destiny was quiet in the car. She held her backpack tight. When they got to the room, she stopped at the door, suddenly afraid. "Is Mama okay?" she asked in a tiny voice. Robert knelt down to her level. "Your mama is very sick, Destiny, but she's been waiting to see you. She's been holding on just for you." Destiny's lips trembled. "Is she going to die?" Robert felt tears stinging his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. I think she is. But right now she needs you. She needs to know you're okay. Can you be brave for her?" Destiny nodded, wiping her eyes. Then she walked into the room, climbed onto a chair next to the bed, and took her mother's hand. "Mama," she whispered. "It's me. It's Destiny. I'm here." And Claire's eyes slowly opened. Claire's eyes focused on her daughter's face, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. The machines, the hospital room, the pain. All that existed was this mother seeing her child one last time. "Baby," Claire whispered. Her voice so weak, Destiny had to lean close to hear. "My sweet baby, and Mama, you're awake?" Destiny's tears fell onto their joined hands. "I waited for you, just like you said. I waited and waited. I'm sorry." Claire's words came out broken. "I'm so sorry I couldn't come back." Robert stood by the door with Patricia, both of them crying openly. They were witnessing something sacred, something that would stay with them forever. Claire's eyes moved past Destiny and found Robert. There was a question in her gaze, a fear. Who was this man? Why was he here with her daughter? Robert stepped forward slowly. "Mrs. Claire, my name is Robert. I found Destiny in the parking garage. She's been safe. I've been taking care of her." Claire tried to speak but coughed weakly. Robert grabbed a cup of water with a straw and held it to her lips. She took a small sip. "The letter," Claire managed. "You read my letter?" "Yes, ma'am." Every word. Fresh tears spilled from Claire's eyes. "Please, please don't let her go into the system. Please, she's so special, so smart. She deserves—" "I know," Robert interrupted gently. "And I'm going to make sure she has everything. I'm in the process of becoming her foster parent. I'm going to adopt her if you'll let me. I'll give her a good home. I'll make sure she goes to college. I'll tell her every single day how much you loved her." Claire stared at him, searching his face. "You're a stranger. I was a stranger. But your daughter changed that. She changed everything." Claire looked back at Destiny, studying her face like she was memorizing every detail. "Do you like him, baby? Does he treat you good?" Destiny nodded quickly. "He's nice, Mama. He bought me pancakes. And he promised to find you. And he did. He kept his promise." A small smile crossed Claire's pale lips. He kept his promise. She squeezed Destiny's hand with what little strength she had left. "Baby, listen to me. I need you to be strong. Mama's very sick. I'm not going to get better." "No, Mama, don't say that." "Shh, listen. You're going to live with Mr. Robert. He's going to take care of you now. And I need you to be good. Keep getting those gold stars in school. Be kind to people. Follow your dreams. Can you do that for me?" Destiny was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. "I don't want you to go. Please don't go. I don't want to leave you either. But I'll always be with you. Right here." Claire touched Destiny's chest over her heart. "Every time you do something brave, every time you help someone, every time you smile, I'll be there. You're the best thing I ever did, Destiny. The very best thing." They talked for another hour. Claire drifted in and out of consciousness, but when she was awake, she held her daughter close. She told stories about when Destiny was a baby. She sang a lullaby she used to sing at bedtime. She made Robert promise again and again to take care of her girl. And then as the sun was setting outside the window, Claire looked at Robert one last time. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for being there when I couldn't be." Claire passed away peacefully 3 hours later, with Destiny asleep in a chair beside her bed and Robert standing watch. The nurses said it was like she'd been holding on just long enough to say goodbye. Once she knew her daughter would be okay, she could finally let go. The next few weeks were the hardest of Robert's life. Planning a funeral, helping Destiny grieve, navigating the legal system. Patricia fast-tracked his foster care application given the circumstances. There were still home inspections, background checks, interviews, but everyone could see that something genuine was happening here. Destiny moved into Robert's penthouse apartment. The guest room became hers, though it took weeks before she'd sleep there alone. Most nights she'd wake up crying and Robert would find her standing in his doorway clutching her worn rabbit. "Can I sleep in here?" she'd ask, and every time Robert would say yes. He'd make a bed for her on the couch in his room and they'd talk until she fell asleep. About her mama. About school. About anything and everything. Robert had no idea what he was doing. He'd never been a hands-on father. He burned breakfast. He couldn't braid hair. He didn't know what 8-year-old girls liked or needed. But he showed up. Every single day he showed up. He enrolled Destiny in a good school near his apartment. He took her shopping for new clothes, though she insisted on keeping her old jacket because it smelled like her mama. He found a therapist who specialized in childhood grief. He attended every appointment, every parent-teacher conference, every school event. And slowly, very slowly, Destiny started to heal. There were still bad days. Days when she'd cry for hours. Days when she'd get angry and throw things. Days when she wouldn't speak at all. But there were also good days. Days when she'd laugh at something on TV. Days when she'd do her homework without being asked. Days when she'd hug Robert and say thank you. Robert was changing too. His business partners noticed he was leaving the office at 5 instead of 9. He turned down evening meetings. He stopped working weekends. For the first time in his life, something mattered more than money. But not everyone was happy about the changes. 3 months after Destiny moved in, Robert's son Kevin called. They hadn't spoken in almost a year, not since the divorce. Robert had left messages, sent emails, but Kevin never responded. Until now. "Dad, we need to talk," Kevin said. His voice was cold. They met at a coffee shop downtown. Kevin showed up with his sister Natalie. Both of them looked angry. "So it's true," Natalie said, not even bothering with hello. "You adopted some random kid?" "I'm in the process of adopting her, yes," Robert said carefully. "Her name is Destiny. Are you out of your mind?" Kevin leaned forward. "You ignored us our whole childhood. You missed baseball games, school plays, birthdays. You were never there. And now you're playing dad to some stranger's kid?" The words stung because they were true. "You're right. I was a terrible father to both of you. I put work first. I wasn't there when you needed me. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix 20 years of neglect," Natalie said, her eyes filling with tears. "And now you're trying to replace us? Is that what this is? A do-over?" "No, this isn't about replacing anyone. This is about a little girl who lost everything and needed help. I couldn't walk away from her." "But you could walk away from us," Kevin said bitterly. Robert felt his throat tighten. "I never walked away from you. I was just too stupid and selfish to realize what mattered until it was too late. But I'm trying to be different now. I'm trying to be better. For her, not for us and for all of us. Kevin, Natalie, I can't change the past. I wish I could. But I'm asking you to give me a chance. Come meet Destiny. See what I'm doing. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to be part of this. But don't hate her for my mistakes." Natalie wiped her eyes. "What's she like?" "She's amazing. She's smart and brave and kind. She's been through hell and she's still fighting. She reminds me of you, actually." He looked at Natalie. "You were the same age when your mom and I split up. I wasn't there for you then, but I see that same strength in Destiny." Kevin shook his head. "This is crazy, Dad. You're crazy." "Maybe, but it's the first thing I've done in years that feels right." They left without promising anything. But 2 weeks later, Natalie showed up at the apartment. She was a teacher at an elementary school, and she'd brought some books she thought Destiny might like. Destiny was shy at first, hiding behind Robert. But Natalie was patient. She sat on the floor and started reading one of the books out loud. doing funny voices for the characters. Before long, Destiny was sitting next to her, giggling. Robert watched them from the kitchen, his heart full. Natalie started visiting once a week. She helped Destiny with her homework. She taught Robert how to braid hair using YouTube videos, both of them laughing at his clumsy attempts. She told Destiny stories about when she was little, carefully avoiding the parts about her absent father. Kevin took longer, but one Saturday, 6 months after Destiny moved in, he showed up with a basketball. "I heard you like sports," he said to Destiny. She nodded shyly. "I'm not very good." "Well, I'm a terrible teacher, so we'll be even." They spent the afternoon in the park, Kevin teaching Destiny how to shoot. Robert watched from a bench, seeing his son be patient and encouraging in ways Robert never was with him. It hurt and healed at the same time. That night, after Destiny was in bed, Kevin sat with Robert in the living room. "She's a good kid," Kevin said quietly. "She is. And you're really different with her. You're actually present," Robert nodded. "I'm trying." Kevin was quiet for a long moment. "I'm still angry with you. I don't know if that'll ever completely go away. I understand. But I can see you're trying. And that kid needs you, so I'm going to try too. For her sake, it wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start." 8 months after finding Destiny crying in that parking garage, the adoption was finalized. They stood in front of a judge who smiled as she signed the papers. "Mr. Thompson, you're now legally responsible for this young lady. How does that feel?" Robert looked down at Destiny, who was holding his hand tight. She was wearing a new dress but still had her mother's jacket draped over her shoulders. "It feels like the luckiest day of my life," he said honestly. The judge turned to Destiny. "And how about you, young lady? How do you feel?" Destiny thought for a moment. "Scared, but also happy. Is that okay?" "That's perfectly okay," the judge said gently. "Family comes in all forms. What matters is love." That night they celebrated with dinner at Destiny's favorite restaurant. Natalie and Kevin came. Even Robert's ex-wife showed up, curious to meet the girl who'd changed her former husband so completely. As Robert watched Destiny laugh at something Kevin said, as he saw his daughter Natalie ruffle Destiny's hair affectionately, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. 1 year after the adoption, Robert sat in the audience of Destiny's school auditorium. She was 9 now, and tonight was the 4th grade talent show. His palms were sweaty as he waited for her turn. Natalie sat next to him, and Kevin had promised to come straight from work. "She's going to be great," Natalie whispered, squeezing his hand. Robert nodded, but his heart was pounding. Destiny had been so nervous about this for weeks. She'd practiced her poem every night, sometimes getting so frustrated she'd cry, but she'd refuse to give up. That was Destiny, stubborn and brave, just like her mother. When her name was called, Robert held his breath. Destiny walked onto the stage in the dress Natalie had helped her pick out. She looked so small up there under those bright lights. She walked to the microphone, and for a terrible moment Robert thought she might freeze. But then she started speaking. "This poem is called 2 Mothers," she said, her voice shaky but clear. "I wrote it about my mama Claire and about finding my new family." Robert felt tears already forming as she began. She spoke about a mother who worked 3 jobs and still had time for bedtime stories. About a woman who kept every school paper like they were treasures. About love that didn't need money or a big house, just a warm hug and a promise that everything would be okay. Then she talked about loss. About the coldest night of her life, sitting alone and scared. About thinking no one would ever care again. And then she talked about unexpected angels. About a stranger who stopped when he could have kept walking. About learning that family isn't always about blood. About how love can come from the most surprising places. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the auditorium. The applause was deafening. Destiny smiled, really smiled, and looked right at Robert. He stood up, clapping so hard his hands hurt. After the show, Destiny ran to him and jumped into his arms. "Did you like it? Like it?" "Destiny, that was beautiful. I'm so proud of you." Kevin showed up just as they were leaving, apologizing for missing the performance. But Destiny didn't mind. She recited the whole poem for him in the parking lot, her earlier nervousness gone now that the hard part was over. As they drove home, Destiny was quiet in the back seat. Robert glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You okay back there?" "Yeah, I was just thinking about Mama. Do you think she heard my poem?" Robert's throat tightened. I think she hears everything you do, and I think she's incredibly proud. I miss her. I know, sweetheart. That's okay. You'll always miss her. But she lives on in you. In your kindness, your determination, your big heart. All of that is from her. Destiny was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm glad you found me that night. Me too, kiddo. Me too, but life wasn't always easy. There were still hard days. Days when Destiny would get angry for no clear reason, pushing Robert away and saying mean things she didn't mean. Days when she'd refuse to do her homework or clean her room or follow any rules at all. Robert learned that grief didn't follow a schedule. It came in waves, sometimes when you least expected it. A song on the radio, a smell that reminded her of her mother, another kid at school talking about their mom, and suddenly Destiny would be crying in the bathroom. The therapist helped. Dr. Chen taught Robert how to handle these moments. Don't try to fix it. Just be present. Let her feel what she needs to feel. Some problems don't have solutions, only patience and love. One particularly difficult day, Destiny screamed that she hated him, that he wasn't her real dad, that she wanted her real mother back. The words cut deep, but Robert remembered what Dr. Chen said. This wasn't about him. This was about a little girl in pain. So he sat on the floor outside her locked bedroom door and said, I know you're hurting. I know I'm not your mama and I never will be. But I'm here. I'm always going to be here. Even when you're angry. Even when you hate me. I'm not going anywhere. 20 minutes later, the door opened. Destiny's eyes were red and swollen. I don't really hate you, she whispered. I know. I just miss her so much. I know, sweetheart. Come here. She collapsed into his arms, and they sat there on the floor together until she fell asleep. These moments taught Robert more about love than his entire life before. Love wasn't the easy parts. It was showing up during the hard parts. It was patience when you wanted to give up. It was holding someone while they broke down, knowing you couldn't fix it but refusing to leave. As Destiny grew older, Robert made other changes too. He'd been thinking about Claire's letter, about all those medical bills she couldn't pay, about how many other families were going through the same thing, choosing between treatment and food, between medicine and rent. He called Natalie and Kevin one evening and told them his idea. He wanted to start a foundation in Claire's name, a fund to help single parents facing medical crises, money for treatments, bills, childcare, whatever they needed. That's a beautiful idea, Dad, Natalie said softly. Kevin nodded. Mom would have loved this version of you. They launched the Claire Henderson Foundation on what would have been her 42nd birthday. Destiny helped cut the ribbon at the small office they'd rented. She was 10 now, taller and more confident, but she still carried that same backpack everywhere. It was falling apart, the zipper broken, but she refused to replace it. The foundation started small. They helped 3 families the first month, then 10, then 20. Robert poured money into it, but more than that, he poured his time. He met with families, heard their stories, saw his own privilege reflected back at him in painful ways. One woman he met reminded him so much of Claire. She was working 2 jobs while her husband fought cancer. They had 3 kids and were about to lose their apartment. The fear in her eyes, the desperation. Robert saw Claire in her. The foundation paid their rent for 6 months, covered the medical bills, connected them with resources. And when the husband went into remission, they sent Robert a card with a photo of their family. You gave us hope when we had none, they wrote. Robert showed the card to Destiny that night. This is your mama's legacy. She taught me to see people I was ignoring my whole life. She taught me what really matters. Destiny studied the photo, tracing the smiling faces with her finger. I want to help too. When I grow up, I want to work at the foundation. You can do whatever you want, but I think your mama would love that. As the years passed, Destiny thrived. She got straight A's in school. She joined the debate team and the basketball team. She made friends and went to sleepovers and did all the normal things kids do. But she also volunteered at the foundation on weekends, filing papers and answering phones and reminding everyone why they did this work. Kevin and Natalie became real parts of her life. Kevin taught her to drive when she turned 15. Natalie took her shopping for her first homecoming dress. They'd all formed something that looked different from traditional families but worked just as well. Maybe better because they'd chosen each other. On the 5th anniversary of Claire's death, Robert and Destiny visited her grave. They did this every year, Destiny always brought fresh flowers and would sit by the headstone, telling her mama about everything happening in her life. This year was different, though. Destiny had just turned 13. She was taller now, growing into a beautiful young woman, but she still had that same determination, that same kindness her mother had. "Mama," she said, kneeling by the grave, "I got accepted into that special program at school, the one for gifted students. And Mr. Robert? I mean, Dad." He cried when he found out. Happy tears, Robert smiled. She'd started calling him Dad about a year ago. The first time she said it, he'd had to leave the room to compose himself. Destiny continued talking to her mother, telling her about the foundation, about helping 30 families that month alone, about her dreams of becoming a lawyer so she could help even more people. When she finished, she stood up and took Robert's hand. They walked back to the car in comfortable silence. "You know what's weird?" Destiny said as they drove home. "I used to think that night in the parking garage was the worst night of my life, but now I think maybe it was the beginning of something good, like something terrible had to happen for something beautiful to come from it." Robert thought about that, about how he'd been walking to his car that night, empty and lost, not knowing his whole life was about to change, about how a little girl with a backpack full of memories had saved him just as much as he'd saved her. "Your mama knew," he said. "In that letter, she asked whoever found you to help you believe that good people still exist. But the truth is, you're the one who helped me believe that. You made me want to be one of those good people." They pulled into the parking garage of their building, the same garage where they'd met. Sometimes Robert would look at that corner where he'd found her and shake his head at the miracle of it all. One moment, one choice to not walk away, and everything changed. That night, Destiny did her homework at the kitchen table while Robert made dinner. They ate together, talking about her day, about the science project she was working on, about the friend drama at school. Normal life. Beautiful, ordinary, normal life. After dinner, Destiny pulled out her mother's old diary. She did this sometimes, reading the entries, keeping that connection alive. But tonight she pulled out a blank notebook Robert had given her. "I think I'm going to start writing too," she said, "like Mama did. So one day, if I have kids, they'll know my story. They'll know about the mama I lost and the dad I found. They'll know that family can find you in the strangest places." Robert watched her write, her face serious and focused, and felt overwhelming gratitude for that November night, for the crying girl in the corner, for the backpack full of memories, for every hard moment and beautiful moment that came after. He'd been a millionaire who had everything and nothing. Now he was just a dad, and that was worth more than all the money in the world. Destiny looked up from her writing and smiled at him. "Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. Always." Outside the window, the city lights twinkled against the dark sky. Somewhere out there, other families were struggling. Other children were scared. Other people were lost. But here, in this moment, in this home built on unexpected love and second chances, everything was exactly as it should be. The crying girl with the backpack had found her forever home. And the millionaire had found something money could never buy. He'd found purpose. He'd found family. He'd found himself. And it all started because one night he chose not to walk away.